I want to go beyond that and create. It feels like right now pure creation is very meaningful. From nothing, like from scratch, from whatever raw material. That's why I never go into art galleries. Like, I'd rather go somewhere and create informally, sharing it or not, and I love art, but there's a lot more in the what could be now. It feels really seductive to me as well. Like, why should you not bite into the apple that life is offering you?
Welcome to another episode of What It's Like to Be You. I'm Josh Levine, your host, and today my guest is Mariona, who is a sexual, social 9-wing 1 with 973 trifix. This conversation happened in two phases. The first phase I am going to call the dispersed phase, and the second phase I'll call the focused phase. We had some lead up to this interview where we'd been planning to do it for a long time, and Mariona had sent me a number of topics via email that we might explore together about her life, how she holds charge in her body, different elements of her past, and how she's processed things. But as we entered into the interview itself, there was a lot of swirling psychological energy, and just speaking for myself personally, I found it difficult to find a specific point of entry into the conversation, like what story to focus on, to start pulling themes out, and everything was very big and vast and kind of chaotically linked together. And so what we kind of talked about was how that itself is part of Mariona's type structure. So 973, especially 97 up front, being very dispersive types, and sexual social being very open and porous and affected by the world and super people oriented and all this kind of thing. That was all the first phase of the conversation. But second phase of the conversation started when we kind of noticed that we were in that swirling energy. We talked about it and understood that was kind of what was happening, and that what was happening in the conversation was sort of a microcosm for how she experiences her life. And then Mariona did a very powerful thing where she settled herself in the middle of the conversation. And the Mariona that showed up after that was very different from the Mariona that showed up before it. It was as if all of her dispersion was gone, and what was left was this very solid, consolidated, firm, clear presence. And so the dynamic that emerged then between me and Mariona was flavored with her presence as a sexual social type. And she brought a kind of creative, intimate, seductive energy. And it wasn't necessarily seduction directed at me in a trying to seduce me kind of way, but more of like a invitational, celebratory, kind of oozing, intimate quality that is just characteristic of sexual social 9. That's what you have in store for you. Before we get to the conversation, I want to make one plug, which is that at the Enneagram School, John Lukovich and I have finished our intro course, first ever intro course, and it is now available for purchase. So you can go to the enneagramschool.com and check out our intro course. I'm really proud of it. It's a 9-hour long, carefully edited, value dense audio program broken into 30-minute chunks that takes you all through the foundational concepts you need to understand what a type is, and then also gives 9 deep dives into each of the types. And so it's just, I'm really proud of it. It's great. And it also has a 37-page ebook that makes the content easier to digest. So check that out at the enneagramschool.com. And without further ado, I'm very excited for you to learn from my friend Mariona. Is it okay if I start with asking you what it was like to set up for this as a self-pressed blind type?
Messy. Yeah. It was the bed on the side of here was full of clothes this morning, and it's like there's always so much stuff around that doesn't bother me, but it also bothers me a lot, because then I cannot think clearly. So I really wanted this space to be tidy, like less stuff around, less chaos, and also beautiful. Like I have some lights around here, some candles, and some coziness, and like it was never like the exact setting. So we took how much time? 20 minutes, half an hour to just set it up well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was just telling you, I have to get this on the recording because I was telling you right before the recording that every time I've interviewed a self-pressed blind type, there's been something like this. There's been some microphone thing or some major tech or just the setup isn't quite right and or some malfunction. We have to work through it. Um,
Yeah, I know. Imagine my whole life.
but here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. And how are you feeling now?
I'm feeling nervous, like there's tension in my chest and like my rib cage. Also excited, like an unknown experience, but I'm willing to dig into it with you. How are
Cool.
you?
Um, I feel great. I feel very relaxed, and I'm excited to get into this.
Me
We've
too.
been talking about doing this interview for a while, and my sense, and you tell me if I'm right, is that there was some anticipation and some nerves around this moment of doing this because this doing this interview means something to you in terms of your process and transformation or a kind of consolidation of a place that you've arrived to in yourself or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's get into that. What is that for you?
Mm. What comes up is that my process means a lot to me,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing it with people is very precious to me because I'm at a moment where I really feel I am my own home, but I come from a lot of turmoil, and being able to transform all of that has saved my life, and I'm also quite identified with my process, so it's very dear to me. I think a part of my ego is wrapped around that, but I love it, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to sound good. I want
Uh-huh.
to look good. I want to, I guess, be seen in my complexity, in my wholeness. And so there's a tension around being able to explain myself, my inner world, in a way that people will understand, but also will be, how to say, hmm, will be faithful or will be honest, true,
Mm-hmm.
will
Mm-hmm.
feel good to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
And you have really got there's kind of like a before and after I think that you were describing, and I think there's a story here, right? Like there's a place that you started from and a place that you have arrived to or that you're going. And so can you paint that arc, that journey?
I think I know where to start, like in the present.
Okay.
I'm pretty exhausted,
Okay.
and I have a lot of tension in my body, and like the trauma that I've been going through in the past years, mm, the stress, how I learned to treat myself. I've had to look at that and take responsibility for it
Mm-hmm.
to be able to change it.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of like core messages and core wounds that I think kept me in hyper alertness.
Mm-hmm.
So it is painful to me to know that in any situation there could be something triggering, and that I'm always looking around me for the most unsafe element and keeping track of that at all
Mm-hmm.
moments. Like if there are sounds in the room, people talking, even at work, for example, there are conversations going on that don't concern me, but my brain is tuned into that,
Mm-hmm.
and it wants to remember what's going on. So even at night before bed, I am remembering that. My brain is bringing it back as if like you have to keep all this information. You have to, like, as if the world is an unsafe place, because I think my parents felt that
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of chaos at home. It was very unpredictable,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always like walking on eggshells
Mm-hmm.
around my parents and so around everyone
Mm-hmm.
in the world. And I felt really fragile. Like I didn't know what boundaries were. I've had to kind of like uh, learn to take care of me and learn to be an adult. There was a lot of enmeshment in my house. So I I didn't have a real sense of self. I've had to build it and discover it in my 20s. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I like to do? Who do I want to do it with? Um, what's my purpose? What things do I not like? What things do I allow into my life? How much? When do I have enough? Like, these things I've explored and I feel much stronger now. But the level of neuroticism um, has always been high. So, like, I have, I guess, a lot of sensitivity
Mm-hmm.
and feeling intense emotions. Like when I was triggered a lot in the past and almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing with the sexual and social is that um, learning boundaries, developing autonomy has helped me. And I do see myself as a kid many times
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't grown up much. And I have a lot of compassion for myself that has helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that has been super healing to be with me through everything and to enjoy being with me, to validate my pain. I even wrote it in the wall of my kitchen. El meu dolor es important in Catalan.
Mm-hmm.
Catalan is my mother tongue. It means my pain or my grief, I don't know, my suffering is important
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't, or so I felt. So I perceived in my childhood. And being a container for myself is something I've learned. But before I've been able to do that, life was just unsafety.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as if I had to learn human relationships again from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
like one friend at a time, months between every time I would see that person again. Yeah, self regulation techniques and all of these things, breathing. Well, we can talk about all of this. Like, what are you particularly interested in? Because I have lots of tools I've learned that right now make my life really good and really interesting. But I think the baseline is this. And at any
Mm-hmm.
moment, sometimes I'm walking or it's a good day and I'm stopping to breathe and to meditate, and I get tears
Mm-hmm.
because the base is always a fragility.
Mm-hmm.
And even in this interview with you, if we stop and you were telling me, how do you feel? Probably I would want a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Like physical contact is something that I need a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I always get in contact with that. The difference probably is that now I can ask for it, but in the past I would stay in the wound and even cry, because in my household, how is this, like, I don't know if this word is correct because I don't use English a lot to speak about these things. In my family, my mother cried every day, and
Wow.
it felt like I had to be the mother,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also brought that, and she kind of cried in private. So whenever something has been happening in my life that affected me, I always cried in my room, but would never show it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I can. Like, I have no problem showing this to people and going to them for support, but um I I've seen it recently, and it's been a discovery that the way of crying intensely of my mother and even of myself, it's it's abandoning me. It's
Mm-hmm.
like this emotion is intense and it's taking me, and I'm going with it, and I'm crying and crying, and it's like opening the wound and more wound and feeling it and going into it, and almost like feeling some, I don't know, numbness, or like some ants on the back of my head, and kind of my cranium closing up on me, and getting a very dizzy sensation of like blackness, and even like, I don't know how to describe it. And recently with my therapist, I'm learning, because crying is my favorite emotional release thing. I
Uh-huh.
do it often. I love it. It's like, I think people should do workouts in crying as well, because you accumulate inside. Sometimes you don't know you have it, but if you schedule it, or like you do it regularly, it doesn't really actually build up so much. Um, and when it's in therapy, and it's always something that's important for me, that makes me feel and want to release, um, it's as if like I ground myself in the present, like feeling that the support, like in the chair,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the legs, in the floor, and I breathe through it,
Mm-hmm.
because the sadness or whatever, something else wants to like kidnap me away from my body. But if I'm breathing and I'm kind of like being in contact with the emotion, with the sadness, it doesn't last so much, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes and goes. It feels like, uh, sometimes I dissociate, I think, because it's
Mm-hmm.
intense and it wants to take hold of me, and then it completely goes away for some
Mm-hmm.
seconds. But I still stay in contact with me. I'm breathing, I'm with my therapist, and then it comes back. And then
Mm-hmm.
I feel it for some seconds. I cry, I breathe, and then it goes away again.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did it this way. So I think by it's my therapist calls it some excess emotionality that
Okay.
I've had for my whole life, I think. And it
Mm-hmm.
used to be very invalidating when he told me that in the past. Like, what do you mean?
Right,
I
right.
feel
Like
a
a
lot and I feel
yeah,
it's
yeah.
very intense. But I think I know now, because it's a way of crying or suffering that was abandoning myself. Because I'm not actually kind of like cradling myself or like being with me while it's happening and comforting. It's like going into the all of it and forgetting I'm in this body breathing. Like I'm not with myself carrying me like a
Mm-hmm.
baby through the emotion. It was like completely,
It's like a loss of self through emotional
yes,
release kind of thing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Um, I want to I want to just jump in here to I have a few thoughts that are threads that I want to pull out from what you're saying, and
Okay,
even actually the way that you're saying it and the style that you're saying it with.
okay.
So first of all, like a lot of themes of how radically porous and absorptive you are to your environment, and you talk about enmeshment with your parents, but also it's like just there's this way I feel your energy um, is this is this receptivity, like a not able not to receive what is incoming energy. And so that's kind of like some core nine stuff. But also there's being double people, so sexual, social, and then having self-preservation blind. The
Yes.
difficulty of grounding in yourself and experiencing yourself as a source of anchoring,
Hmm.
and even what you were just describing with the what your therapist called excess emotionality, there's almost like a dissociation into crying, which is it's
Yeah.
kind of ironic because it's like
Yeah.
most people experience crying as a way to come back home to yourself, but it's this kind of it's like a sexual loss of self thing. You know, we talk about with the sexual instinct,
Yeah.
or this is a way how I'm making sense of it. You tell me if I'm right, but it's like we talk about with the sexual instinct, how the sexual instinct is looking for what will sort of obliterate me, what will transform me, what will like an orgasm is a kind of loss of self,
Yeah.
and this emotional release through crying is sort of in a way serving that function, but being a core 9, doing that in a way that you're actually losing your well,
Is that actually more than losing myself? It was hurting
yeah,
myself more.
hurting yourself more. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Um, because I
But the
wasn't like I was getting into a dark hole. What I feel the difference is that years ago, kind of the pool of pain and rage that I always pull from was very full.
okay.
And so anything that would trigger it was very intense. But through releasing and releasing and releasing through the years, I feel there's much less of that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that emotionality in a way needed to get out of my body through crying, through
I see.
I also shout. I sometimes like punch my pillows. Like intense
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
discharge
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
been and still is one of my favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I need much less of it. Like it's kind of like very now a spike, like or a I go into it, I release, and I feel calmer and more satisfied right after. While before
Mm-hmm.
there would be more and more and more and always more. So I feel in a way I've released a lot that was trapped in
Yeah.
my body, and there's still a lot. But yeah, what you said, there's definitely a loss of self in the crying, and in that not being a holder of that emotion.
What were you getting out of the way that you cried? Like you said, it was a kind of
Hmm.
hurting yourself, but what were you actually?
Um,
Why did you keep going there?
I think my pain wanted me to know it should be felt because I tend to not want to feel it because it was a lot. So I think I was avoiding it. And by avoiding going into the pool, because I remember before I felt safe in my body doing trauma work or going to retreats, going to do, I thought if I go deep into that and I let myself touch bottom, I would die. So it felt like a lot more than it actually is. After actually going through it now, there is no thing as a bottom for me. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like a box that's open
Mm-hmm.
at the bottom, and you kind of like instead of going down, you go up. The thing of like going through it, and that's exactly what you need to do. But I think I was afraid. I think I was very scared, very shocked when I was crying, not knowing. I also was always crying alone, so I think I felt also unsupported in that moment,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I needed to release. So there was a lot of complications or extra added things that prevented me from really releasing through crying. I don't know that it was a re-traumatization, not exactly, but the pain felt like a lot and it completely overwhelmed me. And
Mm-hmm.
probably I didn't even put boundaries to that. Like, when do I want it to stop? No, fully, like, completely opening a door of years or, like, I don't know, centuries of. I think I even sometimes in the past connected with my ancestors. Like, I know that this is not only mine, I
Mm-hmm.
can feel them, I can feel their pain as well. And
Okay.
right now, with this new way of crying or releasing while also being in holding myself, or like breathing and letting emotions come and go, it's much more controlled. It's as if I'm putting a boundary to the emotion as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's me and the emotion and that process now, while before it was only the emotion and there wasn't me.
Yep. Yep.
So I guess it's like what comes up right now is I am the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I am all of that. I am the turmoil. I am the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Mariona completely disappeared in this moment. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just that black hole.
Right. Right.
It was excruciating. I was very afraid of going into it, and while at the same time there was some release, but not that much, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of emotions that I also identified with, and right now I don't anymore. Like I've loosened the grip a lot of the
Is
attachment to my emotions.
is there a point in your crying where you feel you arrive at a place of like, okay, I got there, like the catharsis?
Yes, but it has to be when my therapist is there, I think, or
Mm-hmm.
if I'm alone when I'm writing the messages, because I don't want you to get the idea that I was avoiding myself through crying, which might also be true, but
Okay.
to me, always my emotions have given me the messages that I couldn't access consciously. So there are always these inner messages, revelations, truths that were accessed of what it was actually hurting me, what I didn't like about the situation, or a message I say to myself, I believe I have about myself that's coming back. And usually I can, like, they come clearly while I'm crying. And if I have a paper with me, that's why right now I emptied my room of notes, but there's still one up there, a
Mm-hmm.
note. I
Oh
have
yeah.
lots of
Mm-hmm.
stickers and post-its around my house with all these messages that come up. Um, I'm very thankful for that because that's the way also I heal and I know what I want. Because consciously I have to go through that process to know, this I didn't like. This is what is affecting me. This is what I don't know what to do. And most of the times there is even not a lot to solve, just to feel how I've been attacking myself
Mm-hmm.
and know that I don't deserve to talk to myself in this way and to have these beliefs. And when my therapist is with me, he asks me lots of questions so that we can understand more. And I'm always surprised of what's coming up, always, like in every session. Like, how big is the unconscious? Like, every time I've been doing therapy for years and it's always like something new. And while I'm doing therapy, I'm both like releasing and surprised and excited because new layers come up of understanding and interpreting better my wounds
Mm-hmm.
that always have more meaning. So it's like raw gold, I don't know, raw mineral,
Mm-hmm.
all of that
And that's nourishing for you,
emotion.
those insights and discoveries.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah. You mentioned just growing up and holding a lot of charge in your body that hadn't yet been released, and you needed to go through all this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you needed to discharge all of it, and so you kind of did that through therapy and through self analysis and through a lot of crying and stuff like that. Um, and my sense is that you're saying that you've gotten a lot of that out. So
Yeah.
there was like a lot of it was dammed up, but the dam
Yes.
broke, and through many sessions of release, it's like the backlog is mostly now gone. But how do you distinguish between when
Mm,
you're?
not mostly, but the part that was hurting me the most, yes.
I see. Okay. Um, I've never asked a question quite like this, and I'm not even sure if the premise is right. But what I'm wondering about is, how do you distinguish between releasing more of the backlog versus, I don't know, discovering yourself more in the present, or just it feels to me. Let me say it differently. Like, it feels to me like who you are, like part of your essence, is this kind of open channeled process. It's like there's a lot coming through you. There's a lot of psychological discovery. There's a lot of um, yeah, just psychological material that's kind of like you're like a fountain, you know.
Hmm.
Even in
Yeah.
the email that you sent me, like this, and maybe I'll put a photo of it on the screen if you're willing to have that. But
Yeah, why not?
sure, yeah. But it's like you know, you're typing your name in the center, and then looks like maybe 20 or so different lines, and it's like fearful of what attachment changed the world, destiny, paranoia, neuroticism. There's all this.
Yeah.
It's like an explosion of self insights, and it's like a map of the inner world, but it's almost like I experience it as less of a map and more like what you would see happen after a firework. It's like, here's all the sparks, you know. It feels to me like
Yeah.
that's like your inner shape. You know what I mean? Is that dispersion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I like inner shape. Like all of these things we're saying and much more
Yeah.
is happening inside at the same time.
Yes.
And it's accessible to me at any given moment.
Yeah.
Usually, especially, I'm not in control of when things happen to me. So they start revealing themselves to me as I'm growing and living. And yeah. At the same time, while you're saying this, I kind of want to go fuck off. Like, this is also not me because I can be very light and I really like it. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of this is like, no, I'm tired of me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
after all these years of doing this and hurting me, because
Mm-hmm.
I think when you have this pattern of self demand, you use inner work to attack yourself. Like, it's not really a place of what do I need now? I will go use what I take and then go and leave something and go somewhere else. It was like all of it. I like all of this. And you can get really lost. And I guess there's a lot of nineness there of all these tools and what I'm discovering. And I'm losing myself in it. I actually have things to do that I want to do, that I want to accomplish, that I want to have relationships. And, it doesn't
Yeah.
serve me to be so immersed all the time in my inner world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
tendency that I have, and I need to have a lot of that. When I'm alone, it's like almost as well ADHD focus into different things, like, oh, this,
Mm-hmm.
and I plunge for 12 hours and I
Yes.
forget to eat, I forget to sleep, and
Uh-huh.
then this is very interesting. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't put a boundary on when I want it to end. So then my
Right.
health resents from it.
Right.
I do usually feel a lot of interestingness from this. It's like, oh, I guess it's the sexual sparks. Like, I really like
Mm-hmm.
this. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see
Mm-hmm.
this. Let's go into this right now. It needs to
Mm-hmm.
be right now. A lot of it. And then I will, yeah, just get new insights and get very excited about it. Excited is not the word because it's much more than that. And it's crazy that I was recently talking about this with my therapist. It's like a compulsion.
Yeah.
It's at
Right.
the same time my nature, but I felt recently in a session, he was telling me, what are all these things that you have to be? And I was making a list. He said, no, don't make a list. Like, what comes up? And I was saying, interesting, intelligent, attractive,
Mm-hmm.
innovative,
Mm-hmm.
powerful, and maybe 15 more adjectives along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably the one wing, maybe also the three of all these things I have to be, I have to do to keep this image.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also been exhausting me. And then I've been really letting go lately, but it's been I don't know, like a mm, feedback loop of what's feeding me, what's getting me what I need, but at the same time it's against me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Um, yes. I mean, it has a kind of snake eating its tail quality in a certain way. There's what comes up for me is like, it feels like you're inside your inner world is this snow globe that is like shook up, and it feels like you're trying to access a settled state by
Yeah.
finding one of those snowflakes and then grabbing it and then really understanding it and then like putting it back down so that it can settle. But in the process of going after that snowflake, you disturb all of the water and all the
Yeah.
other snowflakes flurry around you. And so you're the act of self-analysis, like going out to that one snowflake, actually creates the interactivity that generates all this extra chaos. And
Yes.
so, but then you're like, well, in order to solve that, I have to go to this next snowflake, and then it generates more chaos. And it's kind of this never ending like turbulence that you're trying to solve. Maybe this is where 9 comes in. It's like I'm trying to settle myself, but in so doing, or like my way of doing it is actually kicking up more activity.
Yes. I like the way you put it. It's interesting. I like the snow globe because I usually see that in my inner world, it's usually shaken up. So it's like all the snowflakes going around. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
really looking forward to the moment when they will come to sit down and,
Yes.
like in the sand on the beach, really like be still.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can
Right.
access those moments. And right now I'm creating a lifestyle for myself where there is more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it was all the time shaken and I would never access grounding, but now I can. So
Okay.
but I do feel I miss a part of that feeling. That's why I was writing to you and like the things I want to talk about, some kind of like past FOMO, like letting go of the past is hard because I think this could be the seven fix, a lot of mental activity,
Yeah.
a lot of enthusiasm,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of ideas. Like I would be a machine of ideas. That's why all those post-its. I
Mm-hmm.
had to create for myself a box with a hole where I would put a lot of these ideas because it was a way for me to say, if I never put these ones into practice, it will be okay. You know, it's just honoring myself and letting myself have these ideas. But I was punishing myself by thinking I would be able to manifest all of those ideas into reality. It's actually impossible. My mental activity was beyond what's accomplishable. So I created this box where all the ideas are that if one day I want to go into them and just dream and daydream and do this one, I can do it because I have a lot of daydreaming in my head about these ideas. But I also, through this shift and these last years, I've seen that I want to let go of this because it also hurts me. I love it and I can still do it, but dreaming so much and while it's usually about changing the world. That's what you were saying before. Um, it's like, oh, I'll do this project with these people,
Mm-hmm.
and while I'm imagining it, it's already real in my head, and I'm
Uh-huh.
experiencing all the hormones and chemicals from
Mm-hmm.
it's already real.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
bad part is that I did no action towards it,
I
like
see.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
real because I would have to. And I realized a lot of my procrastination comes from the fact that the process in my head and how I know I will feel, or how I imagine myself I will feel, maybe, let's say, recording a podcast, is never the same in reality. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
attached to a feeling of how it feels I'll be feeling when I'll be doing it. So it's always better in my head. And then the actual process of doing it in
Yeah.
reality, there's always obstacles.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe you're thirsty. Like in my head, it's always
Right.
better. It doesn't have any
Mm-hmm.
negatives. It's
Mm-hmm.
pure dreamscape. And I'd say before, all my, I used to be a freelancer. And I, I want to tell you about this.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Um,
Well, real quick,
um,
let me just before you go there,
yeah.
just to comment on that the fantasy thing, because we talk about sometimes with 7 how 7 exists in a state of almost constant inner torment, comparing the the incredibly enticing and exciting vision that I have in my head for how something could be and how it actually is in reality, and the disappointment you experience in the kind of tragic gap between the two. So
Yes.
7s can like think about how amazing an apple is going to taste. It's like going to taste the best, and then you bite it and it's like, it's a little mushy, and it's like,
Yes.
that's what creates the 7 frustration loop, is that gap never seems to close. But that also, as a secondary fix for you, kind of powering a core 9 thing, where there's also like, I'm trying to settle myself, but also have 2 assertive fixes behind that. Um, and also being sexual social with this kind of like a,
It's
we
fun.
use the word, it's like this like huge global messianic change the world kind of energy, which I relate to in my own way, being
That,
social self-pres.
exactly.
But
Messianic
there's,
is the word. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. Um, and being nine, like, so I'm like, I contain everything. It's like I can't settle until the entire world has settled with me, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Yes.
I just interject that to kind of put some Enneagram commentary into what you're saying. But yeah, go ahead.
I actually think it's good to let the mm, ball be still right now.
Mhm.
I don't want to go into what I wanted to say. I think I'd rather, yeah, get a little bit calm because there's a lot of sparkly energy that I'd like to settle down. How do you feel about this?
I feel great about that. That's, love it. I'll say something about it as we'll breathe, and I'll say this at the same time. Um, it seems to me that that's like a real time. That is exactly the antidote to what we've been talking about, right? What you just did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's tiring. It's tiring to be myself. I don't. I don't want to do this thing I do all the time. No.
Sure. So what's happening now?
Hi.
Hello.
The world just is. Yeah, I'm looking through the window and there's nothing I need to say or do. Things just exist.
Beautiful. Yeah, I have my own version of what you're describing as a three. It's like,
Okay.
um, there's a way that what I feel like my personality is doing is like I want to settle too, you know, but at the same time I want to settle once I've become who I'm supposed to be, you know, and once I've
Mm,
manifested like all of my potential and accomplished all the projects and all that kind of stuff.
that will,
Um,
you'll never get there.
correct.
It's
Yeah.
it's what I'm hearing. That's
Correct.
exhausting,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I know because I have something similar in another version.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of bleak and sometimes disenchanting to newcomers to the Enneagram when we talk about your type from the Enneagram point of view is actually the hell you're living in.
Yeah.
And the antidote is presence, which is what we just did. Um,
Yes.
I had a moment like this weekend where I had nothing to do, and I love days where I don't have anything. I love the weekend days where I really just I don't require anything functional of myself. And I went out to there's this big field out there, and I went and I laid down, and I literally just watched cloud formations, and I looked at the
Mm.
pine trees and how they're. I've got a secondary nine fix also, so just like I that's like I just totally luxuriate in that space of just like settling and letting the world in, and I got to this place of just feeling so filled with awe, and I just was like, this is what I am and am for, it's like awe, a sense of awe and intimacy, you know?
Yeah. This is a lot more important than people realize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because this is in every moment if we're capable of using that way of looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes, when I get kind of stuck, I lay, when do you say flat? Like
Mm-hmm.
lay on the bed,
Yeah.
like flat on the floor of my building. And it's interesting because when you do that, you see your house, but from another angle because you're always standing. So you're looking
Right.
at things from
Yeah.
where you can look at it. But if you are there, you actually see things you could never see because you're on another level. And it's like, oh, I want to stay for some minutes or hours in here and explore my house from here. So it's like you don't even need to go into nature to apply that way of looking at life. It's like you just need to turn the object in a way. Oh, from
Mm-hmm.
here or from here, but you can change where you look it from. And I don't know, life in this way could be really exciting.
Yeah.
Not really, just yeah, whatever adjective.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of funny because, with these interviews, it's like our intention is to unpack what's going on in the inner world and what's the texture of it and the structure of it and how it works and how we get into self-defeating patterns and how we're all whatever. And then arriving in a moment like this, it's kind of like, what's the point? It's like
Yeah.
like why would we even keep having that conversation? But actually, that's interesting because that would be my three stuff.
You can't
Asking that
resist going back
question.
to the conversation.
Well, it's more like, what's the functional point of this now? Is what my three personality wants to ask.
Mm-hmm. Well, my DJ is actually wanting to turn the table and be like, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Uh,
There's something I wrote down in my list that the Enneagram just made me so aware of it, and it's like so hilarious to myself, the peacocking. Because I knew it would come a moment when things settle where I kind of like naturally want to go there and do something to impress the
mm-hmm.
person I'm with
Uh-huh.
to create something new and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing that. It's as if, for example, I now said, I will take a book that I have here, a random one, open it, and read whatever's there while singing to you as an experiment. I don't know exactly what would be there, how it would be, how it would sound, how I would look, but the adrenaline that it would segregate and how goofy the whole experience is would make me just want to do it, you know?
Uh-huh.
So if you're up for it,
You want to do that?
yeah, why not? Do
Great.
you want to do that?
Sure. Let's.
Okay,
I'll follow
what
your
book?
lead.
Let's see. I promise this isn't prepared. This is just one that I found. It's the Almanac Satori, which is about Occitan um, habits and ways of living in one area of Occitania in France.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if there's something like a poem, but you ready?
I'm ready. Let me like. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm ready.
I'm not ready, but it's gonna be fun. Dins la vilo de cet homme, mais la en passatemps, sus l'estany, lo soleu espeto, li pon s'elevon devant li bastiment, buffre mangiaire d'imaginari, siamo in rivo de Mediterraneo, legendos e camins milenaris, percumensanzos de pupellos, mai digame in pau, so que siam renque de siluetos, sus les gran dauport de seto, le lume dei fanaus que fan, renque de steletos, renque de steletos, sus les gran de la mar de seto.
Thank you. That was lovely. And your voice sounds so like intimate on the microphone too.
There you go. That's something I like to do sometimes. I love it.
Where did that idea come from
The idea
to do
of
that?
this exact
Yeah. Is
right
that
now,
something that,
you mean?
yeah, yeah. Like, do you have a sense of the place inside you where that came from?
I feel it's like my chest kind of like wants to go forward,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel it's kind of a conquest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've realized recently for me my it relates to my astrology. I think my sun in Aries and my moon in Aries. It's a lot of conquering
Mm-hmm.
experiences.
Okay.
So it's a movement forward to life, plunging into the unknown with just excitement and just wanting to discover myself in whatever shape that can take.
Mm-hmm.
You could invite me, and maybe I would feel a little bit more scared or like, oh, what will that be? But if I choose the shape, and I don't know in what way it will come up, it could have been rhythms, percussion, or I don't know. But I also like to display some seduction in there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what can
Mm-hmm.
I do to put this person in a state of trance in a way with me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that after that, both of us will feel different when we open our eyes in a way, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's like a need, an urge for me to have a new experience and to have it with you, for you to come
Yes.
with me
And for both of us to be
and
changed.
to let it transform us. And
Yeah.
that's the point where I'm getting now, where it's feeling really good to also have presence in it. Like there is a
Mm-hmm.
moment at the end of the song that I'm like, okay, I'm even getting there. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
even soothing myself and accessing something beautiful that I don't know where it's coming from, and it's not even
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little embarrassed after saying this.
Are you? I'm
Yeah,
actually I'm
it
actually
feels
so glad.
vulnerable.
I yes, it is vulnerable. Yeah, it's a vulnerable thing you just did. It's I mean it's kind of like beautiful in its it's the like to me that's the kind of thing that takes a lot of courage to even suggest, you know, and then to actually do it.
I don't know how it felt to you. Like I whenever I've had those moments, the people I'm with don't know about the Enneagram, so they can
Uh huh.
actually usually they say thank you or they say, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that." Or, "Oh, can you do it again?" But there's never more feedback. And I just wonder like from this angle of observation, what do you see?
Well, you mentioned the seduction in it and
Mhm.
the way
Yeah.
that it's like an experience that you're
Because it's not actually
cre-
seducing to get you, you know? It's
yes.
like I feel it as like I'm flirting with life all the time, and you happen to be the one in front of me right now, but it could be someone else, you know? It's just sorry.
That's that is incredible. That's it right there. That's it. Yes. Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you what happened with for me just now was I was of two minds. On the one hand, I was like enjoying and appreciating just like the rawness and the vulnerability of this offering that you're making. And I was like really taking in, and you have a very beautiful and kind of delicate voice, like a plaintive, and also it was the way that you were singing too. Um, so I found myself being drawn into it, and at the same time, maybe because I'm social self-pres or however you want to analyze me, like, and also the fact that we're in this context, the social context of doing an interview, it's like, I found myself also having a certain kind of observatory distance from it at the same time. So it was both, I was like in it and also outside it. And, and then what I was wondering was, is the fact that there's any part of me that's outside it having an effect on you? Like, I was wondering if it was like there was a sense of you,
No.
or if you might be sensing like, oh no, it's not working. Like we're not fully alchemically.
Who
I don't
cares?
know. Who can? Okay, yeah, yeah.
That would be that's what I do a lot of the time because
Mm-hmm.
I'm always analyzing and observing and nya, 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 you know, and it is like this and it could be
Yeah, yeah.
like that. And but at these pure moments, no, I'm just fully in myself.
Yes,
I'm in the
right.
moment. I'm not caring or worried about how it's being received. Like there's no worry about this whatsoever. It's just pure sharing. And I guess voice is a place I've found where I really find comfortable and it's bigger than me in a way.
Mm-hmm. Would it be true to say that when you're less in yourself and or less present, that when you when you are flirting with life, there's a different kind of need for life to engage with you or to kind of get subsumed in it, or so, like a need you're having that depends on the other person or the environment's response.
There's one need, yeah, attention. I want your full attention.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know if I ask for it, I'm going to have it because that's what exactly what I asked you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
proposing something and I hope I'll get your attention. It's not like, Josh, can you pay full attention to me and I'm going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know exactly how I do it or like how I'm so assertive because
Mm-hmm.
but I realized about this when I was seeing the Gaelic people from Scotland sing in public a lot. And you don't have to be a good singer. It's just you just go out there and share yourself. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you think
Mm-hmm.
will come up. It could be a song you invented, a song that you know. It's like very fluid. And I think when in any nation or country where there is a culture of open sharing,
Mm-hmm.
people feel they can go out there to just be themselves and people are not judging and judgmental. And first time I did it, I was afraid, but I really liked it. And then I lost that fear that made me in the past not want to have this experience. Right now, I really think people love listening to others and whatever they have to say. And I go to places where people do this, and we love it in my city. Any person actually sharing whatever a poem, a thought, something they wrote, their
Mm-hmm.
frustrations. It's just like listening is so beautiful. And it doesn't matter what it is you have to say or want to share. But if you just put yourself out there and share something that's true to you, because if it's not true, people are going to know. And sometimes you don't even need to know what it is that you want to share. You go up there and it's going to be clear for you.
Mm-hmm.
And from there you see,
Mm-hmm.
you start
Yeah.
and you trust. I think I'm better and better at trusting life, and in these moments of attention, it's a trust that my need is getting met and it's going to get met. And I don't know if it's selfish. It feels a little bit, because, but yeah, the thing of the full attention, I think I realize now is very, very nourishing for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I think there's a paradox too that I was tuning into, where it's like you're paying enough attention to yourself that you feel like a solid form. And
Yeah.
so when you um so in other words, yes, there's a need or there's a request for attention, which is part of this, I think, well, either the social or the sexual instinct. But there's also, it's not like your emotional state is dependent on my paying attention. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's a celebration. It's an invitation,
Exactly.
you know?
Celebration. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of,
Yes.
that's kind of interesting right there. It's like like when you're in your body and expressing your sexual instinct, it's both self-contained and also it's an invitation to your environment or the world. But there's not a kind of like there's not a neediness in it. It's like
No. No.
it's a it's like a twinkle in the eye or something. It's a different kind of.
It's kind of like, here I am. This is me here. Like, hello.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yes.
Whatever could be in
Yes.
here, like.
Yes. Yeah. And it is actually, it's interesting too, because I think it's David overlaps sexual social with type 2. And I like that because there's a kind of a penetrating heart quality, like we just said. It's like, hello, I'm here. And there's also it's actually almost like a challenge. It's almost like, are you going to be
It
here
is a
with me too?
challenge.
you know it's penetrating. It's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna get in there with you. I'm gonna get inside you, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
get past the
Under your
wall
skin.
of dissociative
Under your
attention that you
skin.
normally hold up, and we're gonna be here together now. It's like, it's demanding.
Yeah. This is not
Yeah.
something
Mm-hmm.
that I think when I do this or other people that I've seen do it comes to
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an unconscious expectation
Yes.
because I do really want to touch you. Like, if I didn't touch you,
Yes. Right.
damn it, like, I need to do it better the next time or different in a way that will impress you because I want you to hear me and be. I guess it's a way that I will want you to listen to me the next time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not necessarily through a peacock moment, but in general, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a way that we could be sharing. And maybe it also, I'm hoping it will stimulate you into taking the courage to do something similar
Uh-huh.
and continue to share from there, because I'm tired of verbal communication many times. Why so many words? There is so much, like, in
Uh-huh.
other languages, and I don't
Mhm.
mean verbal languages.
I have a question, and it might be irrelevant at this point, but
Tell
all
me.
of the stuff that we started the conversation about, the
Hmm.
the big kind of amorphous cloud of um, topics and self explorations and family enmeshment and traumas and crying and all that stuff. Like, how is that living in you now in this moment, or is it?
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and I look at it as, from here, as this made me who I am, and this is where I am now. And I can also not be all of that. Like, this doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I've had to live with and part of my experiences, but I want to go beyond that and create. It feels like right now pure creation is very meaningful. From nothing, like from scratch, from whatever raw material that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I never go into art galleries. Like, I'd rather go somewhere and create informally, sharing it or not, than. And I love art, but there's a lot more in the what could be now. It feels really seductive to me as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why should you not bite into the apple that life is offering you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's pulling me. I kind of started it, but right now I'm in a place that's, I don't know, very sensual to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In life or in
Probably
this
it's the
moment or
topic. I
both?
think I really like the topic. Like I
Yeah.
could really like go with it with you and talk about it for 3 hours more and like milk it a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
really like it.
The topic being, how would you define it?
Creative flirtiness.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I love this. Yeah. Flirting with life. And
Yeah.
I think there's an intimacy in it too. Like yeah, it's like I experience in your energy, especially as like, I'm experiencing right now in a very grounded state. It's like there's like grounded and focused,
Hmm.
you know, which is a remarkable contrast to how we started the conversation, you know.
Yes.
Um, and there's a grounded, focused, penetrating, flirtatious, and a sense of creative potential, all kind of wrapped up into a very dense point, you know. And it's
You can
like
feel it?
I can feel it. Yeah, there's like this. Yeah, there's a way it feels like um, you're creating an energy field that feels like we're the only two people in the world right now. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like
Good.
anything can happen. You know, that's the
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. It's very, it gives life, I think, to my cells in a different way. And there's something about potential and truth and something very human of like all the things we're capable of when we believe in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because there, like, judgment has had ceased at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like a space of pure appreciation of whatever's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like putting the ear or the attention there multiplies whatever the other person's going to say
Mm-hmm.
and takes away the judgment. And I don't know, I guess it's like when one artist does a really good show and it's not recorded. I guess some of the best shows are not recorded, you know? Because in those moments, it's like that raw, that specific concert where they found that quality and they let go, and it could never be experienced again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also seeing the person shining in a way and taking ownership of that part of ourselves. That right now that I'm doing it, it feels really good. I don't give myself that much permission in my life to go out there and do it because there aren't many spaces. You know, you have to find it wherever you are and
Mm-hmm.
seize the moment. And sometimes, even when you want to create it, it doesn't work when you plan it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has to have space for nothing.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's kind of like non-functional, but it has this but it's beautiful and it has an inspirational quality, or it has a some like yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
It's
seek to do, inspire.
yeah. Yeah. That was really really good and interesting. I can't wait to watch this back and just
Oh, God.
this is really rich and very textured. Um so how are you feeling now, and what has this been like for you?
I'm feeling vulnerable, but also very safe. Like, I trust myself and I hold myself. And I'm trembling a little bit. And I'm also a little bit hungry.
Speaking of needs. Yeah. Cool. When you said that you trust yourself and you hold yourself, that actually got me back to that place myself.
Mm.
Um, where I kind of took a breath and was like, "Oh man, I haven't actually been doing that for the last 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so." Well, maybe we come to a close. um,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for doing this. This has been amazing.
It's
Just the
great
journey
and
of this
interesting because,
conversation is,
sorry
yeah.
to cut you, I really kind of wanted to talk about what I do in life and
Hmm.
what's my mission, but to be honest, I don't need to. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you can close. Like, I guess it's something I'm confident we can do some of the time on
Sure.
camera or without camera, but this was very satisfying. So please go on. Sorry.
Great. No, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by the way this conversation unfolded, um, and kind of all the anticipation of it, and then what you sent me, and the kind of, for lack of better terms, the kind of the chaos and swirl of it all, and
Yes.
how we kind of in our conversation zoomed out enough to see that, and then allowed it to settle. Actually, it was you did it. You kind of were like, I don't want to tell you the story that I was going to tell you. I want to
No.
just like get into myself, and that totally shifted everything. So that was very cool. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
and
I guess I wish I could explain that heaviness of what's happened to me in a way that was less heavy, but
hmm
it was what it was, and I'm not judging it.
hmm
It's also me,
hmm
and
yeah, yeah,
I guess because we don't know each other so well, we cannot really frame it in a way that's like super well organized, so
sure,
that
right,
that I kind of wanted to start there, and I also guess I'm validating myself for what I've lived, and that's important to tell.
hmm hmm
And that was also important for me. So once that is done, moving somewhere else,
right.
different, with a different energy.
Well,
Happy to do this
thanks.
in some years again and see what comes up then.
That could be cool. Okay. Well, talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Mariona. If you liked this conversation, then please click the like or subscribe button on YouTube. Or if you're listening to this as a podcast, then you can leave up to a 5-star review. Those are zero cost and very effective ways to support me and our work at the Enneagram School and conversations like this. If you're curious to learn more about what we do at the Enneagram School, you can go to our website at theenneagramschool.com. Right there on the front page is a link to our first ever intro course, which I talked about in the beginning of this episode. We would love for you to check that out. But if not, we recommend that you get on our email list anyway, and we will send updates. And whenever we drop conversations like this, we'll announce them. And we'll also announce future retreats and other offerings and stuff like that we're doing. And yeah, that's it. I mean, we have an ongoing schedule of updates that are coming soon for the year of 2025, and also more interviews just like this coming out as well. On that note, if you are interested in being interviewed, then I'd love to hear from you. Preference goes to people who have been officially typed by the team at Enneagrammer. You can go to their website at enneagrammer.com to check out their typing services, and also they have a member subscription service that I think is very, very good, where they make fine-tuned, hyper-specific, real-time distinctions while they watch celebrities on YouTube. You can also there's a new page that I put on the Enneagram School website that has an organized list of all the Enneagram interviews that I've done so far, and you can see where I'm out of balance. I have a lot of interviews with 9s. I don't have a lot of interviews with, for example, 7s and other types. So if you are a type or an instinctual stacking that I have less of, then I would especially love to hear from you, and I'd like to interview. So reach out. And also, if you are a practitioner or a teacher of an inner work modality that I have not interviewed about yet, then I would love to hear from you as well. So also just at the enneagramschool.com, go to the contact form and shoot me a message there. I'll get right back to you. Okay. That's it for me. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mariona, and I'll see you next time.